Another one.
Starting in QA. It says, I've been thinking for a long time to choose QA as my career. Last summer, I came across a 3-day QA marathon provided by one of the leading companies from my country when it comes to courses in the IT field. Those courses are relatively expensive, around 1,500 to 2,000 euros for 3 to 4 months. So I would like to find out if there are other ways to land a job in this field, preferably remote. So no idea with demands. All right. I have no previous experience in this field, but as I've seen in that marathon, it was like a marathon on TV, like kind of like on USA when they have the Chicago PD marathons, they have the Law and Order marathons. Those Sunday, like those Saturdays used to be popping when I would just sit there and do absolutely nothing, wasting my time away watching Law and Order SVU marathons. All right. But I digress. ADD kicking in. All right. So all right. So let me start over. All right. I have no previous experience in this field, but I've seen in that marathon and knowing that I could learn pretty much easily what implies manual testing, which doesn't exist anymore, by the way. It's something that I'm willing to learn and master. After those days, I dived in a bit more in the subject and found some crowd testing platforms in which I took some courses provided by those websites as well. So here we get to the questions. Is it necessary to have a certification in this field? Right? That's the first question. If yes, is it enough to have a certificate from one of those companies that offer this kind of course? Or should I look into getting a uni, which I'm guessing means university degree? All right. If no, should I learn on my own using the resources I find online and then try to apply to companies? Do I have any chances to get into a company as a complete beginner only with knowledge learned online? Oh my goodness, this is a lot of questions. All right. Should I put on my CV, which is a resume in the United States, right? A CV, in Europe. One of the people I'm coaching, they're in London, and they always say CV, and I'm like CV and like resume. I'm like, oh, resume. I got you. My bad. All right. But yeah, should I put on my CV on my resume for Americans, right? The fact that I did some testing on crowd testing platforms such as UTest, Testlio, and Test.io, and that's it, right? That's the questions, right? So let's get to it. All right. Let's get started with our question. I shouldn't have said that. All right. I'll answer that question for you after, Angie. It's always hard for me to talk about that, but I'll answer. I will definitely answer it for you. All right. So, and when I say that, I'm being a little facetious. Oh my goodness, can't speak. But I'll answer for you after I'm done with this question. So a 3-day QA marathon. I find that pretty funny. The 3-day QA marathon part. But so so Mitch, Tony had said 2 weeks. How about 3 days? Right? How about 3 days? All right. Anyways, I'm just being petty. I'm being petty. The petty tech guy. All right. So let's just get to the questions. I think I've touched on the story many times, but is it necessary to have a certification in the field? No, but depends on. I mean, Europe has its own regulations, but for the most part, you don't need a certification in QA to get a job unless it's a company that's specifically asking for it. Some countries, the job positions, they kind of talk about ISTQB a lot more than other countries. Like, in the United States, like over here, we don't like I've seen very few companies that ask for ICQB as a requirement. Some of them might say like it's nice to have, but like if you put if you put me up against someone who did I start my clock? Did I start? I didn't start the clock. All right, the clock is started, right? If you put me up against someone who is ICQB certified, and me who is not, but been doing like all types of crazy tech and QA stuff for the past 15 to 20 years, I will be like Usain Bolt around them, right? I'll run around them like 100 times and they'll still be like trying to get off the starting line, right? But that's just to show that certifications can be useful, but a lot of times it's just a marketing thing, right? Now, that's not saying that for all certifications, right? Because in like cybersecurity, for example, certifications they can play a big role. Sometimes they're required in order to have certain jobs. So I'm not talking about all certifications. I'm just talking about like those QA certifications. Now, if it's an if it is necessary to have one, is it enough to have a certificate from one of those companies that offer this kind of course? So because I said no, um, it's a nice like let's say you take a boot camp or Udemy course or something like that and you completed the course. I honestly wouldn't like it's okay. So let's put it this way, right? Let's say I have your resume and I'm looking at your resume and I'm going to interview you. I'm not interviewing you because you completed a boot camp or anything like that. I'm interviewing you because of what you have listed as your experience and as your skills, right? So just throwing that out there. The most important thing that matters on your resume is the skills that are listed on the resume and what's listed on the lines of your experience, right? I always say, what value did you bring to that company? What value do you look to bring to that to the what value you brought to the company that you were at, and what value are you going to bring to this company that you're applying for? And what skills did you have listed, right? If you so when a lot of times people put like, oh, I have good communication skills. Great, you should that's an expectation. I don't care, right? But like how much Python experience do you have? How much AWS experience do you have? How much Docker experience do you have? Those are the things that I'm looking for when I'm looking at a resume, right? And then I'm saying, okay, in your last role, what did you do, right? So, if I see that you did if I see you did like you went to some college and you have a computer science degree, cool, right? If you did some Udemy course, cool. If you did a boot camp, cool. Is it my number one priority? Not really. It's really about what you did, and then a lot of times when I'm interviewing, the point that when I actually get to talk to you, you already did your technical project, your technical, and now we're doing a technical interview, and I'm looking at your code. I've already looked at your code to see if I give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So certificates, like I would say you'll get one if you finish the course, but it's not the end all be all, right? So if no, should I learn on my own using resources I find online and then try to apply to companies? You could try that. I mean, it's hard to say because like, what I just explained about the resume is what I'm looking for, right? So what I would say is, however it is that you learn, right, and whether it's a boot camp, whether it's a Udemy course, right, the most important thing that you can put on there is finding a way to get experience, right? And here's how I got one of my tech barbarian members, one of my Patreon members, experience, right? Or we're actually in the process of getting more experience. I helped find a start. Two of them actually, right? One of them I helped them find a startup so that they can contribute to and they can actually do real testing and writing documentation, writing QA and stuff like that. Because they want to get into the field, but you don't have the experience. I created an internship for them, right? I went and sourced a startup. Say, okay, can you don't have testing, you don't want your app to crash and burn as soon as you release it. Well, I have someone who needs some experience in testing, and I'm going to be backing them up. So now let's come together and let's make it work, right? Another person that I have, they pretty much found their own startup to join, and now I'm coaching them through the process, helping them with the documentation. By helping them and coaching them through the documentation, through the processes and stuff like that, right? Through their studying and everything. So what courses they should be taking, what they should be focused on. So you can you just have like using those resources. Those are great. Like however it is that you learn, that's great. But the most important thing is finding a way to have that get practical implementation, right? Practical application. so many times in the boot camps that you go to, they put you in some fake internship that you're not really building anything or learning anything. And it just puts you in a worse position. Like, not a worse position. You get some experience, but it's not enough for a company to want to hire you and talk to you and stuff like that, right? So always looking to put you in, like, what I try to do is either you're working with me on one of our projects that's gonna get pushed to production, that we're gonna have users and stuff like that, or I try to help you land in some like type of startup that they don't have many resources, they don't have testing, they might not even be able to pay you, but they might not be able to pay you monetarily, but they can pay you in experience, right? Because to me, experience is another form of payment. And I know some people are like, oh, I would never work for free and stuff like that. Well, for me, that's not working for free. That is me working for experience, and I now get the leg up on you. So that's take that for what it's worth. And lastly, should I put it in my CV, which means resume? The fact that I did some testing on crowd testing platforms. You can. You can. Most people probably wouldn't know what that is to care, but if you say, like, if your testing is actually like something that, let's put it like this. If you have an entry on your resume that says like the company that you worked for is like UTest or Testly or Test.io, and then what you actually did was something that was actually valid, then that's gonna pass. But if you put something on there that doesn't really mean much, or it's not really show experience, then no one's gonna care, right? It's all about, like, when you, like, your resume is your business card. It's your marketing letter, right? So if you're gonna put whatever you put on your resume, you need to show what value that it add. Like, because what I was telling somebody today, actually, they asked me their resume, and I had to respond to them. I'm like, if you put a point on your resume, after you write it down, ask yourself, okay, so what? If you can't answer the so what, then it's not complete, right? When you put something on your resume, it has to say, like, okay, so what? Okay, the reason that it's there is because it was able to save the company this amount of money. It was able to prevent these amount of defects from going into production. It was able, like, so what? Oh, we were able to, this idea we were able to build it, and it generated the company this much money, right? That's a so what. That's what I want to see on a resume, to show what, like, the work that you did, the type of value that it brought to the company, all right? So keep that in mind, and we'll go from there, all right? So let's wrap that one up.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.